is the masterclass. It says, from views to value, winning consumers with YouTube creators. For this, I would request the audience to please welcome the guests with a thunderous round of applause. Mr. Jayesh Moorjani, lead YouTube Shorts Creators and Commerce, YouTube, and Miss Prachi Taneja, Strategic Partner Manager, Google. Please, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for them. May I request you to please give a big round of applause? Are we ready?
Check. Yeah, looks good. Hi, everyone. Been a long day, I guess. Probably standing between you and evening snacks and some lovely weather outside. But we've got lots of interesting, actually, things to talk about today. What we'll try and do is keep things fairly controversial. We'll share some stats that may be fairly new to you, some claims that you may not have heard before, and hopefully that'll keep things interesting for the next hour. I've got my colleague here, Prachi, as well. I'm Jayesh. I look after Shorts, commerce, and creator monetization for Google. And Prachi is a strategic partner manager for us. We'll have, the next hour, we will be talking about how to really leverage the YouTube creator ecosystem to build brands in the modern world, right? And we know that the creators have become a lot more important. I've sort of run out of words to say while the deck loads, so we'll just wait for that, I guess. But feel free to sort of refresh yourselves with a glass of water or something while we wait for the deck to come. What's been the most interesting session you guys have done today? Previous one? Wow, okay. I've got something to live up to. Okay. So I think we need to have some time left for Q&A. Got it. If you have a question already, do you want to ask on the topic? Actually, we're both in YouTube and both in Google. So I think maybe some confusion there, but that's fine. But we're both YouTube, both Google. Okay, so the previous session. What was the previous session about? Can someone tell me? Rescale. Okay. How many of you guys here have seen YouTube today? I'm guessing, I'm hoping everyone or pretty much everyone. Okay, most of the people, good. How many of you guys regularly watch YouTube on CTV? Connected TV? Yeah? Okay. Fairly unanimous nods, hand raises. And how many of you guys are on Shorts? Nice, okay. There used to be a time when there were only a few hands up on Shorts, but I think it's fairly transcended and become relatively equal to YouTube in terms of value. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how do you actually drive YouTube views to value? And we're going to be talking a lot about creators, right, and YouTube creators. And I'm going to be very honest and upfront here. The reason why we're talking about YouTube creators with you guys is because a lot of the times when we meet clients, agencies, marketers, a lot of their thinking around creators has been shaped by Meta, right? Meta was first to this game, at least in India. And we're sort of playing catch up there. But what we'll talk about is what's different about working with the creator ecosystem on YouTube. How is it different from social? Because they do have their own individual values. I'm not here to put down Meta at all. They have their own strengths, but we're a totally different ecosystem. And the way you leverage our ecosystem can really help you build substantially strong, powerful brands and communication messages that can deliver value for you over the short and the long term, and we'll talk about that, right? I'm not going to convince you that creators are important aspect of building brands in today's world. I think pretty much every brand is now sort of aware that the voice of creators and them lending their authenticity and credibility to a brand is pretty important. I don't think there are too many categories above the price range of maybe 5 to 10,000 that you would end up buying today without going through a creator review first. Today we've got people who are spending their month's salary on a smartphone that they review on YouTube. People are spending their year's salary on a car that they will definitely check out reviews of on YouTube. And people are actually investing their entire lives savings on financial instruments, investment, stock tips, etc., that they're hearing from financial YouTubers, right? So if you think about it like that, every single important category that is there, which is like a high involvement category, there is probably a YouTube creator that you trust who's involved in helping you make that decision, right? So this is truly, and we feel that YouTube is still fairly under-leveraged when it comes to utilizing creators, because it is the #1 platform that you or any consumer today uses to research and eventually vet or buy into a category. I don't think there'll be too many people here who will end up buying, lakhs worth of stock basis what an Instagrammer tells you. That typically doesn't happen. You will trust a YouTuber more, and that's thanks to the long form legacy of the product itself, right? Where YouTubers have spent years building long form content with in-depth research and effort put into bringing the best of their advice to you guys. Just a quick state of affairs. There are now more than 100,000 channels on YouTube with more than 100,000 subscribers, and more than 1 million channels over 10,000 subscribers. And more creators are joining this bandwagon, right? So plenty and more of a vibrant ecosystem for you guys to find and work with the creators in your category, in your sub-niche or genre. So there's more than enough of an ecosystem out there, no matter how niche your category might be. Like I said, there are 2 platforms that are doing this. There's, of course, social with Meta. But if you'll think about YouTube and what does it bring onto the table additionally, first things first, if you're going to work with creators, there's a good chance you will start out with YouTube Shorts, because it is easier to make shorts than long form, of course. It's also a lot more cost efficient. And the good part is Shorts, like we saw in the room right now, has already got about 650 million people. So it's roughly about 90% of the overall YouTube monthly active user base in the country, right? So YouTube's about 750 million odd plus, and Shorts within that is now 650 million odd plus, actually touching close to 700 now. This claim is about a year old, but we're pretty much about 90% on Shorts with the overall YouTube ecosystem, right? The good part is, if you're doing creators today with Meta, and you think, hey, is that enough? Absolutely not. Just like you have your video advertising or any of your performance advertising live with multiple channels, in the same way, YouTube actually has 45% of users who are on YouTube Shorts but not on Instagram Reels at all, right? This is a verified claim that we have with GWI panel. And that means that roughly half of the audience that you're reaching out to today out of your potential audience may not even be there on Instagram, and you're likely going to add them as incremental users to any campaigns that you do with creators on YouTube. But here's the fun part about YouTube, right? This is what is different. So what is the one thing that you guys do on YouTube that's different in terms of core fundamental user behavior compared to Instagram? What's the one thing you guys do a lot more of on YouTube compared to Instagram? Search, right? So intent, basically. And it's a beautiful behavior that actually translates to very, very important metrics that differ creator campaigns therefore on YouTube compared to Instagram. A social feed, if you'll do any internet research, just do this as like a time pass for maybe 30 minutes someday in the coming week. Social platforms operate on this algorithm called the banana algorithm, right? Which means the shelf life of a banana, which is about 3 days, is typically what a content will trend on social, right? 3 days or so, that's the topicality that social gives to a particular trend, and then that trend goes away. However, on YouTube, because of this intent behavior, because of this search behavior, the amount of views that a content gets after the first month of upload, not even the first 3 days, right? Usually you'll get about 70% of views on a social content within the first 3 to 5 days. On YouTube, 40% of the views and 30% of the clicks actually come after the first month of a campaign, right? Month of the organic asset going live. And that completely changes the game, because most of you guys in this room, I know, will have processes in place before approving content that goes on live on platforms such as a Meta, such as a YouTube, and that will typically take more than 3 days, right? So if I told you that 75% of trends on Meta don't even last beyond 3 days, then that's something that's very difficult for brands to jump onto as a bandwagon with all their approval processes, with all of their workings of, you know, getting a creative made by an agency, then putting it into approval, taking legal approval, finally putting it online, getting approvals for boosting, etc., and that trend is already gone, right? So unfortunately, that is something that's not super friendly to brand boosting, and this is where YouTube's algorithm comes into play, right? So 65% of the watch time actually comes after the first month. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One is a slightly old one of our biggest creator campaigns of last year. There's this creator that we have called Bihari Ladka, did a brand collaboration with Wheel. Somewhere now, actually 36 crores, this number keeps changing. 90% of the views of this ad have come, and I'm talking about organic here, not boosted. 90% of the organic views have actually come after the first 1 month, right? So we're just about a year plus into it. Same thing this year, March, April of this year. Big creators, she's got about 65 lakh subscribers. I think this is also now touching about 15 crore views. 75% of the views have come after the first 1 month, right? Organically. And I'm not saying that organic is the only thing that you should care about, of course not. We'll come to what paid does for your campaigns. But that's the beauty of building content here. It is giving so much back, even a month or a year into its life or into its shelf life on the media table, right? Not just that. If you're a category or a product that's available on e-commerce platforms, the likes of Flipkart, Myntra, Nykaa, and we're getting more and more platforms added on to our shopping affiliate program, you can actually link your product with an affiliate link on YouTube, and that stays live for as long as your commission or that affiliate partnership stays live. So imagine if that content has been live for a year, you've got a makeup product that you're touting as a wedding makeup product, right? Every time the wedding season comes, and we have 4 of them in the year, and we have it 4 times every year, or that content will likely get views again and again, and it will continue to give you GMV on the back of that affiliate product linkage on whatever platform you link it with. So not only does the content stay active for far longer and give you back far more, it also delivers clear GMV value and business transaction ROIs for you. The other thing that's different about YouTube, right? You guys, a lot of you said you've been watching shorts, you've been watching long form. How many of you guys have seen a live stream on YouTube in the last year or so, or last 6 months? Pretty much everyone, right? How many of you guys have seen a podcast, a video podcast in the last month or so, right? Pretty much everyone. And again, see the beauty of the platform, right? You're seeing all of these different formats along with, of course, the regular video on demand and shorts that you have seen. And it's just a different way for you to interface with your consumer, right? We know the classic marketing theory that when you consume the same ad in a different format or on a different medium, it actually has a multiplicative effect. It has an additive multiplier to making impact on brand saliency. And that's the beauty of our platform, that you have multiple ways to interact and interface with your consumer. And that is why when brands are working with our creators, they're not just doing your typical short form deals, which you of course see with Reels on an Instagram, but they're also doing creator shows. They're taking our creators and making ads with them. They're doing long form, and they're even doing like creator channel takeovers, right? Because that's the thing. People subscribe to creators and watch their content again and again on YouTube. It's not just completely discovery based like you have on social. You already have examples of a brand like Sprite, for example, which wants to associate itself with comedy as a space. So of course they're doing their ads, they're doing it with a lot of the personalities that have in fact become famous on YouTube, the likes of a Kapil Sharma, Sunil Grover is now their latest brand ambassador. So they're doing creator ads, but they're also working with hundreds of comedy creators to create short form integrations. They're also working with us to create long form IP content with this episodic series called Classmates, which is like a long form episode. They've already done 2 seasons of it. And they're just generally associating with comedy and making sure that the consumer is building that association between Sprite and comedy in multiple different ways, right? Not just the Sunil Grover ad that you might have seen recently. Let's take a very different category example, insurance, right? You would think it's much more boring. What's the role for creators? Actually, the role for creators is even more important because it's a more serious product. So like I mentioned, what a YouTuber says about an insurance product can actually be much more valuable. So of course, they've got their celebrity assets, but they've also got their regional celebrity, regional social assets that they're working with us across all different regional markets of the country, where we've got locally popular influencers. They're building topicality in seasonal moments like IPL, where they've associated with a couple of teams, and they put that content out. And then they've also worked with Food Farmer, one of our very popular health YouTubers, to make long-form content on a series around health, right? So this is like a 4-episode series that he made for Star Health in partnership with them. Star Health was one of the fastest growing insurance players last year, and that's because they're making sure that their brand is being exposed to a user, to a potential consumer, with all these different facets of the brand's personality being exposed through all these different formats. And of course, at the end of the day, it has to translate down to business. And are we seeing that? Absolutely. We are seeing creator campaigns deliver far more value when added to brand assets at any stage of the funnel, whether it's awareness, whether it's consideration, or purchase intent. We are seeing creator assets actually add to brand campaigns significantly. Okay, so that's the why of it. Okay, why should you think about YouTube differently, and how you can go about it is something that I'm going to get Prachi to come over and share with you a framework on how you can go about starting to work with our creators.
Okay, thank you. I just want to quickly start off by asking, a lot of you said we did use YouTube. We did see long form and short form. So can any of you tell me what could be some of the top performing categories that you would pick for your brand when you're picking YouTube? What would be that category that you think works really well on YouTube? Okay, comedy, yes. Shorts is one of our formats. So what else could it be? Okay, and? Okay, okay. While I would say within those 5 answers that I've got, we've already covered 5 categories. But let me tell you, this is not where we end, right? Categories where we build niche are also existing on YouTube, be it food, be it gaming, be it horror. There's literally a creator with us who creates horror podcasts, and you wouldn't believe is working with a brand who creates resumes. What? What would he be doing with a brand that creates resumes? He's creating resume horror stories that you would have never thought of, right? So YouTube is not just predictable or unpredictable. There are so many categories that sit on YouTube which you may or might not know about, right? Another thing I think I would start off with, Jayesh spoke about search. A lot of you also said search. A lot of you said long form, short form, right? Can you tell me, when you create content when it comes to our platform and our competition, right? What is that one thing that you feel is differentiated between both of them? When you're picking for your brands, how do you choose what content should be on competition and what should be on YouTube? Yeah. Hmm. Now, I will tell you one more thing, right? Now, YouTube is not only a multi-format platform, but it's also a platform where your content lives forever. Even me, we might not be living forever, but your content is definitely going to live there. And I'll give you an example of what Jayesh mentioned, the longevity when it comes to your campaigns, right? We saw the campaign which Bihari Ladka did last year, and Saloni did this year, and you saw the organic numbers. Let me tell you, there was a creator who 5 years ago created a piece of content which was full day, he's just eating junk. I'm not going to name the brand, but he did for a particular brand. He only got 250K views. 5 years down the line, it has 5 million views. Now, great. One of the examples, like how Jayesh mentioned, right? But let me tell you, when it's on YouTube and it's your brand, you can even 5 years later go back to your creator, get rights, and tag your product on YouTube. That is something you cannot do on any other platform. Not only it's multi-format, it gives you an opportunity to bring and build library for your brand content, which you might not be able to do in comparison to any D2C brand that's doing at the moment, right? Now, we've discussed why YouTube, what our competition is doing, creators. There's a threefold strategy, which is very easy to remember, and that's what we're going to discuss with you now. It's called bring, build, and boost. Now, you're going to be like, I'm already spending so much money when it comes to competition. Why and how should I invest on YouTube? It's as simple as two principles that we're going to discuss with you. One of them is adapting what you already have, and that in a very layman term, it could be your social first strategy. So how do you build social first strategy when it comes to YouTube in two easy, simple steps? The first is going to be lift and shift. But I'll tell you again why we are moving to lift and shift. There are two different numbers that I want you to remember. This is a Nielsen case study that's in front of you, which actually talks about when you look at ROI-driven assets, 50% of those assets are creator assets, okay? And the second bit is, if you ever get confused, and there are so many times we get this question asked, when it's a brand asset or a creator asset, what should my split be, right? Can anyone tell me what should your split be between a brand asset and a creator asset on a platform? Should it be 70-30? Should it be 60-40? What should be the split when you're actually looking to boost content? But still, if you feel if you are going ahead as a brand, what would be a split that you would go ahead between brand and creator assets? Well, maybe that's where we will achieve. Not really, because your brand assets not only drive awareness and are very claims heavy, whereas your creator assets are something that not only amplify that claim, but also provide relatability, right? There is some nuance to it on why you should do what your brand assets bring forth, right? At this point, it's a 50-50 split that actually tells you on one of our products, which is DG campaigns. If you have 50% of brand assets and 50% of creator assets, you will have 15% more conversion. And that's not an easy number to get from a brand POV, right? You can. That's also the media plan, brand to brand, brief to brief, right? But while we are building that media plan for you, that's also an opportunity that we could pick on. Now, while we are discussing that creator assets are really important, how can you even start, right, without just creating assets? The first step is lift and shift. What does it mean? There are thousands of assets, or even if not thousands, there are hundreds of assets that you guys are already creating on a day-to-day basis. Those assets are not only something that you can use on your current platform where you're deploying them, but it's also something with a few tweaks to it. You can actually make them YouTube Shorts first campaigns, right? Maybe your meta campaign would have something on the reels in the end, comment down for a link for engagement, right? But something on YouTube Shorts, you could not only talk about comment, but you could also see from one of our metrics, AVD, how did that content perform? Now, AVD is average view duration. When you have something created with the creator content, you are able to see from their metrics, how did that content perform? And that is when you can plan your next month's bulk content. So first, if you're ready to pilot and start and kick off on YouTube, the first step is where you can start with lift and shift. Lift and shift ads are not only just something as YouTube Shorts where you just completely, we would say, just pick and deploy. There are certain tweaks that will definitely help you, and we will look in the further slides how you can actually kind of make those tweaks and move ahead. Now, not only long form and short form, we have, like how Jayesh mentioned, long form, short form, live stream, right? YouTube is a multi-format platform. When all of it come together and combined, what you actually see is the best of creative performance that you can actually get on YouTube as a platform. So 3 simple steps: you lift and shift your ads that are just YouTube Shorts first with slight tweaks. You can also connect your shorts back and link them to your long form content that you're actually creating. So that not only serves as individual asset, but also retargets your audience to long form content. And the third bit could be when you're boosting, you can actually customize for YouTube Shorts platform and see creative performance actually skyrocket through in terms of the 15% that I'm definitely talking about. Now, shorts form video ads on any other platform versus YouTube Shorts, we've actually seen just in long-term brand growth about 21% of increase in not only effectiveness, but also brand attention. Now, what would this 21% increase be, right? Are people, you might say there is no engagement on YouTube versus Meta. How would you see on YouTube? When you're doing shorts versus long form, what is something that you would expect out of the audience or your TG to interact and understand? Yes.
Long form would be more for educational purpose, whereas shorts and all will be very direct.
Yeah.
Because of the time span.
Yeah, and also what it does, it actually creates a base for your entire brief. So many of times we've been told there needs to be some sort of pre-launch, launch, and sustenance, right? So not only shorts is varied where you can use it across all 3 different pillars when it comes to your brand, but it's also something that we spoke about when you link it back to your long form. These are also snippets that create brand recall, right? That's where your 20% increase and effectiveness actually comes in. The brand recall that all the brand managers are taught about as a jargon to have in our mind, that is something which can come with multi-format only on YouTube. Now, the second bit is we've focused, piloted, created some assets for another platform, tweaked them from YouTube. But what if we want to create YouTube first assets and actually create something basis best practices, right? That is something we're going to look at now. What are some of the best practices that can actually help you create content for YouTube? Not only think of creating assets which are native to the platform. What would we mean by native to the platform is understanding the requirements. Like on how reels you cannot create content beyond over a minute. On YouTube Shorts, there is so much that you can do between a 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 seconder, right? And then move to your long form content as well. When you're creating content, not only look at your target audience, but also look at the target audience that's consuming content of the creators that you're working with, because that's who you're actually going to reach. So when you're picking creators, always ask your agencies or the creator directly to help you with a metric on YouTube called AVD, which is average view duration. It helps you understand till what point did the creator content actually reached their audience and where did it drop off. That will help you plan your content a bit more better. The third would be when you're thinking of marketing objectives, go slightly beyond building a creative story. Now, what do I mean by that? Suppose we have a hair fall shampoo brand, right? Can anyone tell me what sort of creators would you pick for a hair fall shampoo brand? Lifestyle, beauty, travel. Okay, who else? Horror, yes, for sure. And what else can we pick? Yeah. Now whatever we've picked are the generic ones we'll go for, right? But tell me, do mom influencers don't have hair fall? Do our siblings don't have hair fall? There are times where literally our colleagues are having discussions with us and we are talking about hair fall, right? So that's what we discover when we talk about creative storytelling. Creative storytelling isn't just your scripts, it's also moving beyond the notions we have in our mind when we pick creators. from a travel creator to a food creator, to a mom creator, to a male creator and a gaming creator. Everyone faces hair fall. So not only broaden your horizon when you're thinking of target audience, but also when you're thinking of creative ways to do storytelling with your assets. And last, not the least, always pilot, right? When you experiment and then reiterate is when you understand in initial first 1 or 2 months. Yes, sorry. Absolutely. If you pick a male gaming creator, there are also female gaming creators, right? Yeah.
For the hair fall. My intent is, sorry, my intent is not hair fall, watching a hair fall. My intent is the gaming. This is just like one of the integrations I would call. So I would consume the content, but I might not make a decision or buy, or that won't be a conversion kind of a thing.
Not necessarily, and I'll tell you an example from my end itself. I've just been at Google for a year or slash YouTube, and I was with Unilever a year before, and I was the brand manager on that hair fall campaign, right? So the fact that ROI is not just limited to conversions, it's also me building my audience, me reaching to my audience wherever that audience exists, right? And how many times will I reroute and work with just those lifestyle creators, or those food creators, or just travel creators, right? A different nuance in storytelling not only allows you as a brand POC to reach out to different audience. Yes, the split might not be as 50-50 what you might reach for a lifestyle creator, but that 80-20 to a 70-30 is a newer audience base that you're accumulating. Now, you don't have to work with a gamer creator every month. But once in 3 months, you're also targeting to a newer audience, to a right mix that you can pilot. And that's when you talk about experiment, right? Hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question here on your left.
Yes.
Hi. So, how does YouTube help in B2B brands, specifically in deep tech or in deep fin kind of brands, where your clientele itself is a very small audience, but you still need to influence them in some way? Wouldn't LinkedIn be a better option than YouTube for such kind of brands and accounts?
Again, I feel, and this is from a brand manager's POV, one platform doesn't serve all purpose, right? And LinkedIn also is at upcoming aspects of where you see it as a platform. When you see YouTube, we also have brands where we work with, where they want to work with construction site workers, or they want to work with painters, or hairstylists, very niche communities, right? But that's when YouTube actually helps you to create edu content. Specifically when you do for B2B, how many times can you actually have a production house come in and shoot for you? You need those sales videos, right? That's where YouTube can actually become a repository platform for you, where you create content, maybe not short form in this case, that could be snippets, but long form, which is more of edu content, right? So that's where it kind of drives conversations and also understanding what can I do. There are so many times, even I wait for a lot of series and I know when the creator is going to post. So when you have something in series format and it's edu content, it's easier for you also to send it to your clients and be like, this is where you find all information about our product.
But just to counter, the audience that we are talking to, let's say in deep tech, the guys will want to talk to all the CTOs and CXOs of respective organizations as their target audience. Now, they are not going to be on YouTube looking at shorts. They'll probably be more likely to be on LinkedIn, if at all they are on any social platform.
But
so
they're definitely listening to podcasts.
they are, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're definitely listening to podcasts and they're definitely listening to all the snippets that are there on shorts. Okay. And that's what I can actually say about my husband. It's difficult. He's one of those 45% that Jayesh mentioned, not on Instagram Reels, on shorts, and constantly on podcasts, right? So I would still say, see, we are not here to say that YouTube is the only platform, stop working on any other platform, right? But have it in your mix. It's always good to have that additional platform
Sure.
that has been working for years.
Yeah.
So from that POV.
Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
So let us say I am a chemical manufacturer, wanting to market to pharma buyers, someone sitting inside a pharma company. Now it's intent-driven content search. In what situations will there be a pharma person searching on YouTube for content which pertains to chemicals? I think that's another question. And yes, agree, it's not a platform for mainly B2B. From whatever you have said, it's primary for B2C. But under what situations will it really work for B2B when the whole construct is intent-driven search?
I am for sure no one is searching and going for chemicals and just B2B focus. But
Correct.
like I said, one of the formats that works really well on YouTube is podcasts. Second bit is they might not be searching. But when they're asking you questions and you have content resting on YouTube, you can definitely share the videos with them, right? Like the construction website that I spoke to you about, we actually had a brand who just wanted to work with construction workers. They knew that construction workers or their brand folks are not coming and watching content, but they created a repository, different episodes, different series, answering questions. Like I would say in chemicals case, why wouldn't you talk about how, from your how-tos to different types of ingredients that are maybe there to manufacturing, right? That again, under the edu content umbrella, you can share those links with the audience. Might not be from same perspective as a B2C, but still holds a lot of importance from edu content.
Sure. So primarily it can serve as a repository.
100%. And also talk about, like I'll tell you, when we spoke about lifestyle creators, right? They not only spoke to these, now they don't go and talk to construction workers, but while they did their vlogs, they definitely spoke about their journey. I'm also looking to look at someone's relatable journey when I'm coming to YouTube, right? So maybe even you could have a podcast. That could be your more B2C and B2B. And maybe next time when we meet, we would be hearing from you if that worked or not, yeah? But separately, if there are questions, we can separately work on numbers and tell you what actually exists, yeah? Thank you. Yes. Okay. Okay. So then last 3 steps basically to sum up what we discussed. Something that you need to create definitely shouldn't look like in the face ad. That should be something which has more storytelling and actually reaches out to your audience. To capture and garner the attention, you actually have to focus on what you want to communicate. So focus on the benefit. That is something that you're trying to relate to and get in the end, which is like a CTA. The third bit is when you're creating a multi-sensory experience, what do you mean by that? Experiment with 2-3 different hooks, right? Don't stick on something which is just like a one-off and keep repeating it month on month. The next would be definitely have supers. There is a larger audience that consumes content without even hearing the audio. So supers actually helps to modify and understand what the creator or the content is actually trying to relay. When you showcase your objective in terms of your format, be it long form or short form, just to have more results, try and show the product in different ways, right? Just don't put it in front of the camera. Try putting usage shots. Try putting something which you will actually do in a normal day-to-day scenario. And something which we've always spoken about is the first 5 seconds. They're the key where you establish what you want the user to take from your video and understand what they can actually expect out of it. The next bit is your product should be front and center, but I would also say not be front and center where it's someone just speaking to the camera and have a product next to them. Try more of usage shots or talking about the packaging or something that's actually worked for them. Second bit is when you have the benefit, right? Try to have 1 or 2 benefits in focus. You can have different pieces of content, but don't try to put everything in one piece of content. And the third will be how do you engage with your audience? Ask them to comment. Ask them to share their experiences. Ask them to talk about if they have any other recommendations apart from your product being served. That actually helps you to not only build engagement, but also understand how you can build forth the next content that you plan. Well, that's on Bring, 2 simple steps, and what we've kind of decoded how you can actually create content. The third is going to be how you can actually build with YouTube when it comes to creators. There are 4 simple rules, which is creator selection, creator roster, asset variety, and creative production. The first one being creator selection. Now, we've spoken to a lot of folks and they say, but I don't know how do I search for creators on YouTube. I search for travel creators, but I only find 10 creators on YouTube. Well, we actually solve that problem with something called CPH, which is a Creator Partnerships Hub. If you have Google Ads, that's all you need, your Google Ads ID. Just go in your Google Ads account, and on your left, you'll actually see CPH as Creator Partnerships Hub, how you can see here in the screenshot. It not only helps you to find creators, but it also gives you creator data to understand their audience and also the sort of content, how it's performing well for them, right? So that's how you can actually search for the right creators for your brand without just going and randomly searching otherwise. Now, this is something that's a case study which Adobe actually did. This is a global case study. They worked with a creator who had about 5.9 million subscribers at this point, 6.5 million subscribers. They worked with CPH to understand what creators would be best suited for their brand, and also where they will create content which is more engaging for their audience. So just to match the right creator expertise and also understand what the audience could be, they not only themselves used CPH, but they also had their agency working back and forth. They did a full-fledged 3-month campaign, and they saw that the results on YouTube were something way better than the competition, and here competition being Meta, in terms of Reels versus Shorts. The numbers were somewhere around, they saw about a 30% uplift when it came to Adobe. And yeah, that's how you can also use Creator Partnerships Hub to search for right creators for your brands. The second bit is how do you build a creator roster? Like we spoke about finding the right creator genre, it's also important to understand what is your correct tier mix that you can go with. What you see here is macro, micro, and nano creators, right? And mega. Usually your nano and your micro creators should be between somewhere about 50% who are actually creating content and awareness for you. And the rest of it should be basis your brief, again, between your macro and mega creators. Your macro creators are somewhere helping you not only bridge the gap when it comes to getting the reach that you are actually looking at and also scale up those numbers. But micro creators also try to build in deep expertise when it comes about what do you want to convey, right? And nano creators amplify the conversation. That X creator said so and so, and I also went ahead and tried, right? That is something helps you to build numbers in bulk and create more talkability. You could also say that word of mouth through creators could be a version of nano creators working for you. Now, YouTube Creator Partnerships API is something that's usually where we have about like 25 plus agencies and a lot many more media agencies who have this API and get direct data to understand that, you know, what data segments are available, how you can put creator benchmarks. When we speak about as a brand, what could the SOV be? How do I actually check on metrics? So that is where you can actually get that information from the API. What are the affinities and the in-market segments where I can actually look at for a particular brief that sits on? You can definitely work on YouTube shopping affiliates. Jayesh spoke about Flipkart, Myntra, Tira, Nykaa, Purple. These are 5 of the platforms that rest with us at this point, but obviously we're getting many more. Then we also spoke about how organic works really well, but after I complete this segment, we will also speak about the role of Boost, the paid media that you actually see when you work with creators. Second is brand mention timestamps. If you actually even have any creator who has created content for you, say about 3 or 4 years before, and you actually want to go ahead and tag your product, you can even do it at this point of time, obviously after getting rights from them. The next is going to be different dynamic brand segments that you can tap on YouTube. And then external links on Shorts. This is a recent bit where people have just asked us all the time, are links back? Yes, external links on Shorts are back now. The next bit is asset variety. We spoke about the 50-50 split where I said creator and brand assets actually show you that 15% conversion. What did I mean by that? What I meant is when you're thinking of long form, please don't forget short form. And when you're thinking of short form, then don't forget about long form. Both of them go hand in hand. Not only the idea is to just link and create different assets, but this is an entire consumer journey that you build with multi-format system which only exists on YouTube. Long form will definitely be longer videos with integrations of your brands, but shorts is something that will be very direct in terms of reaching out to what you want to convey. That's why you also have feed where you can put an image or say just like a static which can go on creators feed talking about one of the shorts that's gonna come. It can move to shorts format saying, okay, the shorts is finally live. While the creator is speaking on the shorts can come back that in 2 days, please wait for the long form video that's gonna come and I'm gonna explain it in detail. So that is how you can actually build like an entire consumer journey where you're speaking to your creators. So next time when you speak to them, and specifically for YouTube, ask them for multi-format packages that will also help you to kind of modify the fee that you pay to the creator because it's a bulk deal for them as well. Now you see Supergoop, again a global brand. I'm not sure about how much the guys know here, but I'm sure girls definitely know about Supergoop sunscreen. We have Lisa Koshy who did this multi-format campaign for their newest sunscreen. She has about 16.6 million subscribers, but when she actually went ahead and did multi-format content where she had statics, she had shorts, and she also had long-form content, you actually saw a 93% increase in searches. Not only for the brand just asking about the products, but also asking them when is their next launch when it, with respect to other different products with related to Supergoop. You can not only plan when it comes to multi-format ecosystem with long form and short form, just stagger it throughout the year. Maybe in the first half of the year where moments are less, festives are less, you can amplify more on shorts and statics. That's where you can actually look at. And while you move to your Q2, moving to festive, definitely start investing more in long form plus short form together. And that's how you can build your entire annual plan with just YouTube as multi-format notion. Now, creative production, I know we've spoken about some things, ABCDs in terms of remembering what your creative assets could be, but another bit is definitely inspire your creators. Please don't give them those boring briefs which just have claims. Explain them what those claims mean. They also need to understand those claims better to create content for you. They would also kind of come up with scripts which actually work for their audience because your brand content will rest on their page. Right? So help them with little insights to understand what those claims actually mean, right? The second could be when you show the value of your product, please just don't say this is my product and this is the 5 things it does. Talk about the consumer research you would have done. Talk about any studies that you would have done. If there are any numbers or claims that you want them to speak about, help them understanding the product a bit better than just showcasing on how beautiful it is and how the content would work. And the third would be your story formats. Embrace different formats that sit here. They are there for a different reason. Please don't ask creator to just create a long form asset in the face of a shorts or have shorts integration just like 10-seconder on a long form. Use your multi-format wisely for what it is actually there. And that's how you can connect it back. This is actually an Indian case study. About 4 months ago, we worked with Nykaa Fashion. We saw 66% higher increase in orders, specifically for fashion cohort with Nykaa Fashion. We not only worked with them to understand what sort of creators they wanted, they did use CPH with one of our agencies. They not only explored different formats, but high form, short form content was something that worked really well for them. They also saw a lower CPM, somewhere around I think about 29% less when it came to CPM, and these are the numbers they were not able to see with any other platform. So fashion first YouTube short content definitely worked for them, and now we are working with them for an annual plan just which is beauty and shorts first. Now this is a quick recap. Your creator selection, creator roster, and asset variety are your key 3 top points when you're thinking what to do on YouTube. And in the end, for you to understand, I finally executed my campaign, give that creative freedom to the creator that you have picked. Instead of telling the creator, I chose you, but do what I want you to do, right? That creative freedom is gonna help them create the content that actually works on their platform. Okay, I think I'll hand it over to Jayesh. Anyway, I've taken a lot more time.
All right, I've got about 5 minutes. Thanks, Prachi, for that. I'll actually pick up from the previous slide here with Nika. I think there's one number that we've not highlighted a lot, but you should really take note of, which is the number of creatives, right? And the number of creatives here is actually a small number. It's about 10 influencers, and they delivered their entire campaign with just 10 influencers, right? 10 creators. Now, what does that mean? That means that you don't necessarily need to make thousands or hundreds of assets with creators every month to make your brand viable with creator ecosystem, right? That's not the way to go about it. And the reason for that is most creators or social influencers on Meta will charge you roughly, if you're a well-known brand and you're fairly premium, they will actually charge you about ₹1 per view that they claim that they will give you organically. But even if you're able to go via a large agency and you get a good rate, they will typically say, hey, my content is going to get you 100,000 views, so I'm going to charge you 50,000 rupees, right? So 50 paise per view is what you will cost. But please note that when you actually promote your videos, either on Meta or on YouTube or on TV for that matter, the typical cost that you benchmark against is anywhere between 5 to 10 paise per view. Okay, that's the typical cost of paid media, which means if your assets stay organic on any platform, could be Meta, could be YouTube, it's actually going to be 10x more expensive, and it's impossible for you guys to build a strong, robust, financially viable P&L for any brand in the long term with just an organic strategy on creators, okay? It just doesn't work. And feel free to try this and burn some money while trying to beat these numbers. Doesn't really turn out like that. Not just that. She had made a good point around saying, you know, I'm going to make content around hair fall with a gamer. What is the intent there? It may not be valuable. To be honest, no matter what creator you work with, and these are the controversial slides I was referring to in the beginning, right? So now we're getting into those points. Let's say you're a beauty brand or a cosmetics brand or any brand that is working with a female influencer because you say your TG is female, right? And this female influencer has like 100,000 followers. She's given you a good rate, 50,000 rupees. She will make a video. She'll deliver you 20,000 views or whatever, right? Unfortunately, once a creator or an influencer on social goes beyond anywhere like a 50,000 number on followers or subscribers, their follower base or subscriber base starts to look like the base of the platform itself. Okay, it becomes super demographic in nature of the platform. And unfortunately, that means if you're telling your agencies, yeah, find me creators who reach out to females in the top 10 cities, who buy online products, etc., unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. There are no such creators that only cater to those audiences. As soon as that base becomes large, it starts to represent the demographics of the platform, which are similar for both. 33% female for Instagram, 34% female for YouTube, blah, blah, right? The same kind of demographics. So let's say this creator is giving you 20,000 views. Unfortunately, the number of females in the top 12 cities who would have seen it is actually only 1,000 out of the 20,000, right? And everything else will be people who are not part of your TG. So that 50 paise per view that the creator is charging you, when you'll apply on this filter, will actually become further 10x. Okay, it will become 5 rupees per view to an actual TG. Whereas your paid media is only on your TG because you're putting the target audience, whether it's a YouTube campaign, whether it's a Meta campaign, whether it's any campaign, right? So it's actually 100x more expensive. Okay, so just make sure that you're aware of this. Now, 20,000 views. Unfortunately, and most of you in this audience will not know this, those views are actually counted not in 10 seconds, not at 3 seconds. It's actually counted at 0 seconds. Okay? So what that creator is telling you, hey, I'm giving you 30,000 views, 50,000 views. Those views are counted at 0 seconds. Same thing on Instagram, actually. They started it. We used to have 4 seconds. Unfortunately, we had to come down to 0 seconds because creators started telling us that we get less views on YouTube because we were counting at 4 seconds. So we brought it down to 0 seconds. And actually, this metric is supposed to be platform facing for the creators. This is not meant to be a business metric. This is not meant to be a brand metric. You should not care about this. What you should ask is, you're giving me 20,000 views. What's the average view duration for these views that you're giving me? Look at those. And that's where YouTube does beautifully because our views tend to be at least 4 to 5x longer. Again, go and test this. Take the same lift and shift like Prachi was mentioning. From social, we don't want you to make separate assets for YouTube, right? Work with the same creators who have a presence on both platforms. take rights for both, put it on both, see the average view durations, you will realize that YouTube's actually longer. But unfortunately, even then, unless you start boosting, your cost parameters are what I showed it to you, up to 50 to 100 times more expensive when it comes to your TG, right? We've already done the testing with brands. Even when you put the cost of promoting added to the cost of production, you still get 3x ROI on assets that you're promoting versus assets that you let stay organic, right? Because guess what? In that same example, right, where I mentioned, you have to try and find then female creators who are, you can talk about your hair fall product. You work with 100 of them. Firstly, you will get those views which are being counted at 0 seconds and you think you're doing a great job delivering 100,000 views. Secondly, you don't even know the overlap between those views, right? Whereas on paid media, you will be able to deduplicate between the views you're reaching. You will be able to see your exact unique reach of the audience that you have. Again, super important. And that's why when you start promoting, instead of trying to build 500 assets with 500 creators because you think you want to build a large reach for your product, work with 5 or 10, build better assets, and then promote to the same audience that you think those 500 would reach out to, just that you will end up actually reaching out to 100x more, and you will get much better ROIs. Right? These are the numbers that I mentioned. This is why when you actually start putting in campaigns, these results are not from organic campaigns. These results are from paid campaigns. It's when you add creator assets to your brand campaigns in paid campaign results, that's when you start seeing these kind of efficiencies come in across the funnel. Right? And like I mentioned, you can add these campaigns to any kind of campaign, whether awareness, whether consideration, or demand gen campaigns, which are our performance campaigns. Although we now have data over several creator campaigns to know that creator assets actually work better for some of the lower funnel objectives. When you have like a complicated product, you need to explain how-tos, or you want to drive pure performance. Whereas for your standard branded, branding campaigns, building saliency, top of mind, you have a new product, you have a new launch, typical brand assets still work a little better, right? Because you're able to focus on the brand a lot more and make it seem more authentic there. Secondly, how do you actually measure the success of your campaigns? And the trick here is not to invent or come up with a way to measure the success of your creator campaigns. If you'll speak with agencies, many of the agencies will talk about this thing called engagement rate. Engagement rate, unfortunately, has zero correlation with business. It is now proven over a long term that an engagement rate on an asset has absolutely no correlation to what business that asset would have driven. Okay, and you can check this with Meta also. It's not just us as YouTube saying it. Even Meta will tell you the same thing, unfortunately. So if you've been tracking ROAS or CPAs on your typical performance assets, you have to do the same with your creator assets. Do not invent new metrics to make your creator asset spends justifiable. Okay? Engagement rate means nothing. We've seen ads where it was a sunscreen integration and the creator spoke about how she finds the weather in Mumbai a lot better than the weather in Delhi. There were hundreds of thousands of comments which started getting into a Delhi versus Mumbai battle, and the asset had the best engagement rate out of 100 assets. Had zero correlation with the product itself. Okay? Most of the average view duration did not even get to the brand displayed. Lastly, okay, so you have to promote assets. How much money to put between promoting assets versus creating them with creators? How much to actually recruit creators and make these assets versus putting money behind them? The simple question that you answer here is, when do you actually make money for your business? When you're making the asset or when you're actually showing that asset to someone? Right? When you show your asset, the paid media is actually the profit center for you, and the production is actually cost center. Every single dollar you give to a creator to make an asset for you is a cost center. It's not going into showing that money for you. You just saw what the organic views actually are like. So again, learn from 40 years of advertising on TV, 20 of which have happened on TV and YouTube. This formula and this ratio already exists. There are hundreds of thousands of CPG brands that have tested this formula on how much do you invest on making an asset, whether it's a 5 crore Shah Rukh Khan asset or a 5 lakh creator asset, doesn't matter. you should try and put at least 5 to 10x more of that into promoting that asset to show it to a different audience. Because you make money when that asset is shown to an audience, not when you're making that asset, okay? So that ratio also doesn't change. So the trick is not to come up with a metric to evaluate how to measure your campaigns, what should you actually look for in terms of metrics, or come up with new formulas on how much to spend on making those assets. The trick is very simple. Have good quality creator assets, have a few of them, and put all your business might into showing those assets to your actual TG, right? And that's it. Last thing, what kind of creator should I put more money behind? Is it the smaller guys? Is it the bigger guys? So good news and bad news. Good news is, today, the way the algorithms are working on any of the platforms, whether it's us, whether it's TikTok outside in other markets, you could work with a small creator and that asset could go viral. But like you've seen, 99.9% of campaigns do not go viral, so don't plan for it. Build your strategy around how much you will put into making the asset versus promoting them. Keep it 90-10. If something goes viral, great. But what you should do is, if you're working with a breadth of creators which are large, medium, and small, ideally work with about 20% of your creators should be the big ones, where you will end up spending 50-60% of the production money. 30% of assets on the micro, which are the middle guys, anywhere between 50,000 to 250,000. And you can work with a set of nano creators, because you also need to have some sort of share of voice in the market, right? It's not just that you will only promote to your TG. You also need to make your brand culturally relevant by having a certain minimum presence. So you can work with a few nano creators to ensure that there are enough people who are seen as talking about your brand when you're in the middle of a launch. However, in terms of promoting, we always recommend promoting the ones with the biggest creators, because ultimately they have the highest level of credibility with the audiences. They have the biggest known presence. It's almost like working with a brand ambassador. They have the highest authority to lend to a given brand that associates with them. And so therefore, while your micros and nanos will do a good job of giving you share of voice in the organic space, ultimately the big guys are the ones that will drive credibility for you, right? I'm going to take a pause there. I'll leave it on a summary slide with everything that I've spoken about, but open for questions for 2 minutes, and then we'll wrap up the session. 2 minutes? Yeah.
So I'm not from a brand. I'm a product growth manager for a content commerce platform. So we work with creators.
Okay.
So we have like 40,000 monthly active users, and the GMV that comes in, 90% is from Instagram. Creators are not using YouTube for affiliate marketing or for generating affiliate commissions. Do you think automated DMs is that one feature that is helping Instagram drive so much GMV?
So look, Instagram has been there with third-party affiliate partners such as yourselves, like a Wishlink, for a long, long time. And so they have a leadership space on that. However, we do have an affiliate program that we've launched now with 5 partners, where I think if you'll go and speak with a Flipkart or a Nykaa or a Myntra, you will realize we're actually driving a lot of affiliate numbers for them as well. So we're catching up on that space. But you're right, they do have some features like DM replies, which, because of them being a more social product, I think works well for them. YouTube is not inherently a super social product, right? So we may not even need it. Maybe we'll have something else, which will be our version of driving affiliate margins. But our product teams are continuously working on boosting that as well. But our affiliate program is fairly strong. And like we were seeing, right? A video on YouTube lasts for years, if not decades. And it will continue to drive GMV for a much longer period of time. So we're confident that over a longer period of time, the same asset on an Instagram or a YouTube will actually end up delivering more if the asset is made well.
So I kind of help creators, understand how they can create content and how they can monetize from different platforms. So YouTube, if I have to create like a tutorial for them, like how they can make 10x on YouTube. So the major points that you mentioned would be the longevity of the content, right?
Yeah, you should ask them to search for the affiliate program and get themselves enrolled into that program. It's called our YPP program, managed partners. They should be able to take that advantage then after that. Sorry. I can hear you.
So
there was a slide on Nykaa where you mentioned about the 66% rise in the orders. So that made me really happy because I got excited about the mechanism YouTube uses to maintain sales data. And the second question is, when you mentioned that data, that 66% rise, did it come from the Nykaa's website, Google Analytics, or YouTube Shopping? What was the source?
That would have been their internal BIs, their internal business systems.
So YouTube does not have any
No,
internal...
we also have AdWords, but most advertisers will not look at our Google AdWords data and accept it. There are some differences in the way we measure conversions versus how their internal CRM will. And ultimately, an advertiser will measure their own CRM and go by that as the source of truth. So if they're giving validation and allowing us to put that case study on a forum like this, they have to be confident that it's the right number. So it would be their own internal data.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your questions.
Thank you, everyone.
For time.